Hello and welcome everyone once again to another episode of the Lost Pegacast, episode 6. I'm your host, Ukami the Wolf 1 today, and it is, well, technically at this point it's November 11th, but November 10th, Season 3 premiere! Yes, the day that we've been waiting over 200 days for has finally arrived. It is the opening of Season 3, two-parter, The Crystal Empire. And let me tell you, it was amazing. I, of course, watched the live stream because I don't get any television channels where I am. But it was so amazing. It was also the first time I'd actually gotten to see an episode the moment it aired. Usually I'd have to watch it after the fact. Considering I first came into the fandom at episode 24. But the episode was amazing. So today, on the Lost Pegacast, we will be looking at the episode and the entire thing, the whole two-parter, and looking at what we learned and what's opened up for the plot, and just the whole thing in general. There won't be any special news segments or convention news today, except for the fact that BronyCon has finally been announced. It will be in August and be held in Baltimore. But other than that, that's the only news I have today. We also won't be doing fan fictions, or news or anything else at all. It'll be simply discussion. And today we'll be discussing Season 3, Episode 1 and 2, The Crystal Empire. So, sit back and relax and listen to my review on My Little Pony Season 3. Now, I've actually got the episode playing as I record this, although I have it muted so it won't mess with anything. So we can look at this thing frame by frame, just about. Now, you can already tell the animation is looking much better. Celestia, at the moment, she's in her throne room, and the stained glass windows are all highly detailed, and the whole room is detailed. After the main theme, I checked to see if it had changed at all from Season 2, because the opening, they made it better for the second season. They did change a good chunk of it, although it was mostly the same, but they did change about 20%. But it hasn't changed at all since Season 2. So, of course, after the theme song, we get the best part ever, for me at least, Twilight freaking out, which is just simply awesome. It seems the animation looks a lot better. Twilight's shelves have a lot more books than in previous seasons, and she pulls out that humongous book and just drops it right on Spike, and it just crushes him, and she's just freaking out, and it's amazing. And she pulls out all those flashcards, and it's like, I'm going to need more flashcards. The whole Twilight freaking out is just awesome. Like, she really hasn't changed that much since Lesson 0. And then Spike, he asks her if it's all necessary, and he puts a pillow all around him and an army helmet on, and then Twilight just freaks out. So then after that, after Twilight's whole freak out, we get to see Luna and Celestia talking. And Luna's voice is much more refined than last season. And it's much better now. You can't hear Rarity because I believe it's Tabitha St. Germain does both voices. And you could hear a lot of Rarity in Luna's voice. But this time, Luna has her own distinct voice, and you cannot hear Rarity at all. And we'll ignore the fact that her wings are for some reason all extended and stuff. And get on to the next awesome part. After Celestia is explaining to Twilight all about the Crystal Empire, she pulls out a little dark magic, and her eyes go all green with black smoky wisps, and it's just, it's like, ha ha, Celestia can have black magic, it's awesome. And a lot of people are like, whoa, when that first happened, and that was really interesting. And later on in the episode, Twilight is able to do it. So one has to wonder exactly what kind of powers the unicorns have. Like, if there's a lot of black magic, and even if, someone as pure as the Sun Goddess could also do something like that, because now she can, so it seems like anyone can perform evil black magic. So this is an interesting development. Now, interestingly enough, when you see Celestia giving the final explanation to Twilight and Luna is standing next to her, Luna is a lot shorter than I thought. I thought they were closer in height. I know in the first episode, she was really small, but it seems that Luna is much, much shorter than Celestia than I thought. I also heard, I didn't check it, but her color scheme might be slightly changed. It's kind of a cross between her first appearance and her second appearance. I haven't looked into that too much, but I'm going to have to agree with that. Also, I like the look that Luna gives Twilight when just before Celestia shuts the door and Twilight leaves. She's given this kind of, pouty kind of look. Hard to describe. She's just like, and it's kind of cool because I like little interesting things like that. And then they get into song, the failure success song, which I didn't listen to it previously, even though it had been released, and I don't really care for it that much. The song, it was okay, but it's not going to be my favorite. I'm sure it'll be remixed all, within the next month. There'll probably be, 20 different versions of it out, but it's not my favorite song. I'm going to have to rank it, at the bottom, just, second to last for my personal favorites. And then they're taking the train all the way up to the Crystal Empire in the frozen cold north. So we know Equestria spreads far north because you've got, Ponyville, and that's in a regular spot sections of North America here, around the New England area. Alright, I'm not going to use North America as an example. Much better, China. The land of Equestria seems to be similar to mainland China, and then you've got them going to a Siberia-like area. And that's a good distance, so Equestria seems to be an extremely large country. And now they take the train, but it's interesting because there was nothing up there, so how come there are train tracks headed up there? Unless it's some sort of, lone outpost or something. And then, of course, Shining Armor comes in being all Luke Skywalker and making blatant Star Wars references. And he's like, the Empire isn't the only thing that's come back. And it's so then they, trek into the kingdom, which is being protected by Cadence's magic. And they're chased in by the evil king, and Shining Armor stands to protect them, and gets him. His horn is here's an interesting spot. Okay, his horn gets infected with the evil king's magic, and so he can't use his magic, and it shows in the form of black crystals over his horn, and it makes me wonder. Someone mentioned this, whether that'll pop up later. Whether it'll be gone for good, or it could return and he'll get sick or something. I personally think it's gone because at the end when they finally use the crystal, it banishes all the evil magic, including curing him. So I do not think that will be that will come back. And then they walk into the gates of the Crystal Empire, the Crystal City, and there's this huge tower that looks extreme. Alright, I'm going to say it right now. This place is reminding me of Neo Tokyo from, what is it there? Sailor Moon, from the Tokyo of the future, and it's the Crystal Palace is like the Crystal Palace of the future Tokyo from Sailor Moon. And of course, Rarity is all like, oh, crystal ponies, yee, and she's, all like, oh, so fabulous. And we get Cadence, and she's just sitting there and really, really exhausted. She's like I'm delirious with sleep deprivation, which I've been to multiple times, and she's trying to keep the force field up using her magic, but it looks like she hasn't slept in like days. And she's the only one because Shining Armor can't use his spell. So she doesn't actually, past saying hello to Twilight, rarely has any lines at all. She's seen, but has very few lines. I believe Shining Armor does have more. And Twilight figures that to find out what to do, how they protected the Crystal Empire before, to go and talk to all the ponies and write up paper on it. And she figures this is part of her test. And Rarity keeps freaking out about crystal ponies and how fabulous they would be. So then they all go out and try to find out about, from the crystal ponies, exactly how they did protect the Empire. And it gets pretty funny, because first we've got Twilight, who doesn't really get much. Then we've got Rainbow Dash, who's like acting all... is there a word I can use? It's not a swear. Okay, she's acting like a real prick. And then we've got Pinkie Pie, who's, borrowed the outfit from Splinter Cell, and now night vision goggles are canon in Equestria. And Fluttershy is, of course, not getting anywhere at all. And Applejack is the only one who gets any information at all. And the only thing she gets is to go to the library. And Rarity's just too caught up in the whole being crystal pony to actually remember to get any information. And then you see Fluttershy walk up, and it's actually Pinkie Pie wearing a Fluttershy outfit. And she's like, my cover has been blown! And then when Fluttershy walks up, she walks over and she's like, ooh, what is this? Or that's what the look on her face is. And they go to the library and search all around the whole thing until they finally find a book that tells them about the Crystal Fair. And it uplifted all the ponies' spirits so that they could power the Empire and spread love and happiness, and it would protect the Empire. And so they decide to set up a Crystal Fair. And then there's the Crystal Fair song. And I love Rainbow Dash in her armor, which is really awesome. And this song was okay. Again, not my favorite song, but far from least favorite for this one, at least. I'm going to put this one in the middle. And so they all get ready, and Twilight decides to, it says there was a crystal heart as the centerpiece, so I carved one out of a rock. And so they bring all the ponies there, and one by one they're getting all happy and stuff. And then they realize they messed up. And Twilight finds the final page that was missing from her book, and it was a real crystal and not just a piece of rock. And Cadence is like on the verge of collapsing from exhaustion, and her force field does go down at one point with the evil all flooding in. She managed to get back up, but she's really on the edge. Then we get to episode 2. So at this point, Twilight has to go after and find out where the crystal heart was stored, which was wherever the evil guy hid it. And she figures it had to be in the palace itself, somewhere hidden. It was the most likely place. So while she's doing that, everyone else has to guard the fake crystal heart, which they covered with the flag, and prevent anyone from looking at it. Because if they find out, then everyone will be really depressed, and it won't work. So, she and Spike go in while the others try to keep all the ponies occupied, including Pinkie Pie, who's dressed in some weird Harlequin outfit. Let's see, where am I? Oh yeah, so Twilight explores the castle in an attempt to find it, while the others guard the Crystal Heart, which I probably said 3 times already, but I keep forgetting. So she searches and realizes that the king must have made the his throne room look different, what with the evil power. So she uses the evil purpley black green magic on one of the crystals, and it reveals a staircase that goes a long way down. She throws a rock down and listens for it to hit, and it takes forever to hit bottom. So it takes her forever to get to the bottom. Then she finds a doorway, and she zaps it with some evil magic. Then comes a little personal favorite part of mine. So when Twilight finally enters the door, she ends up back in the palace, and the princess tells her, "You have failed," and she's acting all like, man, is there any words I can use that won't offend somebody? Oh, darn. Oh, well, so Celestia acts like a real dick, and moments later, Twilight finds out that it was a hallucination of her worst fears, of her failing, and the princess no longer having her as a student, and Spike snaps her out of it. And she realizes that instead of zapping it with evil magic, she'd have to zap it with good magic. And it switched everything, so she'd have to climb a huge staircase as opposed to the one she just went down. And so she decides just to use a gravity spell and flips herself onto the underside of the stairs and slides down it, or up it, as the case may be, and has a lot of fun doing it. Meanwhile, we get to see Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy, I love the way her hair is, and they're jousting. And Rainbow Dash doesn't take it easy on her at all, because she still has to maintain her awesomeness. There was one thing, though, that bugged me a little, and I'm watching it right now to see if... and... yeah, animation error, okay? Her jousting pole, I'm not sure what it's called, Rainbow Dash had it under her left wing, but in the next scene, it's under her right wing. And it's kind of strapped to her, she's not holding it or anything. And then you don't see it in the next scene. It's kind of weird. Yeah, there were several animation errors right there. That's too bad, though. And the evilness is slowly encroaching. And Cadence finally gives out just about. And I gotta stop saying and. When the Crystal Ponies finally find out that the heart is fake, Rarity is like, well, the Crystal Heart is... And Applejack's like, on its way! And yes, the element of honesty is lying. And then Rarity's like, I was going to say it's being polished! Which, of course, would have been a much better excuse. And the evil is slowly encroaching. Twilight makes it to the heart, but sets off a trap. She manages to get the heart out to Spike, who she tells to go and deliver it to Cadence, even though it was Twilight who was supposed to be the one to save the even though she was the one who was supposed to save the Empire. And she can't get out because of the spell, no matter what she does. So Spike takes it and goes out, and the evil king is encroaching. Now there's a problem with this evil king, because there is nothing at all explained about him. There is no backstory. He barely has a line. And there's no character development at all. Whereas Discord, we got a whole lot of... we know a lot about his character. We know nothing about this king. He was almost there for the sake of just something for them to defeat. Like, he probably won't even appear again. I wouldn't be surprised. And then, as he attacks, in comes the they finally defeat him. Spike slips off the tower, and he and the Crystal Heart are falling. And so, Shining Armor takes Cadence and launches her off the balcony really fast. And she's suddenly, like, all awake and takes the Crystal Heart and throws it in place. And they call her the new princess of the Crystal Empire. And interestingly enough, the Crystal Heart matches her cutie mark. And so now it appears that she will be the ruler of the Crystal Empire. All the ponies turn to crystal, and they're kind of translucent, not transparent, more... You can kind of see through them, the way the crystal ponies are, because they're crystal. And the wave of blinding light blue goes through and pushes all the evil out, and it turns all of them into crystal, and of course Rarity's all giddy. It also changes their hair too. It designs their hair, and it looks a little different. It almost reminds me of a picture from Fallout Equestria. I forget who did it. I think it was CSI Mad Max who did the picture of the 6 of them, and their hairstyles were kind of that 50s-ish style. And it sends out northern lights across Equestria, and the city is saved. And Twilight's happy, even though she wasn't the one to do it. And she's afraid she's failed, but of course, she was willing to give up the test to save everyone, and that was the lesson to learn. And so, she's learned it. And you see, the stained glass window has Spike on it, and the Crystal Heart and Cadence at the top. And if you will look to the left, you can see the other stained glass window where they all... I believe it's them defeating Discord, yes, because you can't see the whole thing, but it's the Discord window. Then, after she goes out and meets up with everyone, where Spike has been, like, hyperventilating, afraid that Twilight has totally failed, they sing a reprise of the Failure Success song, and all 6 of them sing, so it's another group song, which makes it a bit better than the first time around. So I rank the reprise song a little higher than I rank the first version. And then you see something interesting. Luna brings a book into existence with her magic, and and in the background you can see them all on the train going back to Ponyville. And there's some interesting things. Now, I've just gone over the whole episode, so I'll go over what they've left open. At one point, Princess Celestia says that something about them, her, what was it now? Either unlocking her true potential or... No, you know what, I'm going to have to go and check that again. There was one point at the beginning when Celestia and Luna are talking where she says that when she completes her task, we will know that she is that much closer to being ready. Now, I originally thought they were referring to Cadence, and at first it made sense because at the end it seems that Cadence is now the ruler of the Crystal Empire to the north. So we probably won't be seeing a lot of Cadence and Shining Armor if they're living that far north as opposed to them living in Canterlot now. But that's beside the point. But now I'm realizing that she was referring to Twilight Sparkle. I think most people knew she was referring to Twilight Sparkle, but the first thing I thought of was Cadence. Now, it seems that now Celestia also said that Twilight is now ready to move on to the next step of her education in magic. We also saw at the end Luna pull out a special book, and Celestia and Luna nod to each other. So it seems what some people have thought, that now she is moving on to the next step in her magic, and it could be really big. Some people have thought that maybe she'll be on her way to becoming an alicorn. Others are under the impression that she will now be under Princess Luna's tutelage, which could be very interesting, because Luna's got a whole different set of magic tricks, I'm sure. It could be either one of those, or something entirely different, but it's... who knows? There have been rumors of the underlying plot line throughout this season, and this could be part of it. Twilight learning much more about magic, like really, like elevating to a new plateau of magic use. And I think it's going to be really interesting. Now, another thing that came all around from this season premiere was the commercials. Okay, we had two things. First, we had commercials for GAC, which is some sort of, like, Play-Doh, gooey, petroleum-based substance it's all gooey and stuff, but it stays in its form. I personally don't know, but they had a lot of commercials for this gunky toy. But the thing is, personally, I think that that's a safety hazard, because if you can rip it apart and kids might think it looks yummy and swallow it, that's not going to be very good. So I can see that not lasting too long due to that fact. So there was already a Ask Gak Pony Tumblr on Tumblr, and Princess Molestia's newest comic was they ended up covered in Gak, and there are a bunch of jokes about this. Although I'm hoping that these jokes, because they only people who watched the season 3 opening will get it, like watched it the moment it came out. If they had to wait a day and watched it on YouTube, they're not going to get it, because the YouTube video doesn't have the commercials except at the very end for Littlest Pet Shop. Yeah, I'm hoping that this little thing goes away. And the other thing was they gave us several commercials for My Little Pony Season 3, and they all had little clips of the upcoming episodes and stuff. So we saw a bit of the Cutie Mark Crusaders and Scootaloo, and we saw something that looks like it could have been part of the Trixie Magic Duel episode. We also got a episode synopsis for Sleepless in Ponyville, which I was wrong. Sleepless in Ponyville is going to be our Scootaloo episode, where Scootaloo will be, has lots of nightmares from listening to scary stories. So we finally get a Scootaloo episode and a Cutie Mark Crusader episode. I'm going to check again, but I think that means they're like almost next to each other. I'll just pause this and check the episode listing. Yeah, the episodes are listed as episode 4 for a Cutie Mark Crusader episode, and episode 6 as a Scootaloo episode. So already we're getting plenty of Cutie Mark Crusader goodness here. So we finally already get that. I've got to go cross off my pony bingo card. So this is going to be very interesting, and one of the biggest thing though about these commercials is at one point Pinkie breaks the fourth wall and kind of like quickly runs her hand over her face like she's, fixing it, and you just see a blur, and then she looks like a G3 pony, and Applejack and Rarity look like they're just like totally disgusted. And I really hope that it doesn't become a thing. Like, that's just like Pinkie breaks the fourth wall for 1 second, and maybe that'll be it. Hopefully, some thought maybe there'll be more of that, but I personally think it's just going to be her breaking the fourth wall, because it looks like DHX is trolling us. Haha, very funny. So, these two episodes are probably the best ones I've seen so far. It's harder to say whether they're any better than the Canterlot Wedding, which were the last 2 episodes we saw before these. So, they're doing really good. and I can't wait to see where all of this takes us. Since I've got nobody else here with me to bounce opinions off of, this is going to be a short podcast. Consider this a part 2 to the podcast I did earlier this week. It's still going to be listed as podcast 6. But quickly, if you'd like to send letters to me, send them to the Last Pegacast at lastpegacast@gmail.com. And if you would like to be a co-host of the show, because spots are open, you can send in a Gmail, same place, subject co-host, or something similar that I'll read everything since that mailbox has been empty for a month now. And I will definitely probably read every single letter on air. So anyway, this, I think, oh yeah, there was one other thing. On Tumblr, I subscribe to 28 I follow 28 Tumblrs. 27 and a half of those are pony related. And I usually get 1 or 2 updates a day, not much. But after I watched the episode, the 2-parter, it was more like 10 hours later, I went on Tumblr, and there was 10 pages worth of back stuff for me to read. Just in those few hours, it was like everybody had just, boom, everyone was on Tumblr, everyone was talking about this. It was just like a pony day. So my week has been awesome. Between ponies today and one of my favorite game series, Grand Theft Auto, they've been releasing info for the first time, Grand Theft Auto 5, this week and next week's new trailer, so I'm stoked for that. And then, of course, we probably got ponies, hopefully according to Zaptuit, there are ponies next week, so we'll have more ponies. So I think that's about everything I want to say. Yeah, episode was great. Yeah, so this is Okami the Wolf 1.